Why older women start hating their husbands. After 70, and what most men still don't understand. If you're over 70 and notice your wife seems angrier, more distant, or constantly irritated with things that never bothered her before, you're not imagining it. This dramatic shift is happening in millions of marriages right now, and most couples have no idea why. After 40, 50, even 60 years together, wives are suddenly pulling away from husbands they once adored. The statistics are shocking. Divorce rates among couples over 70 have tripled in the past decade. But here's what's really heartbreaking. Most of these marriages could be saved if both partners understood what's really happening. Today, I'm going to reveal the hidden psychology behind this late-life marital crisis that nobody talks about. In the next 15 minutes, you'll discover exactly why this happens and what you can do about it. I'll show you the 4 hidden resentments that build up over decades, things your wife has been feeling but never expressed. You'll learn the 3 massive blind spots that prevent men from seeing their wives' real emotional needs, especially after retirement. I'll reveal the shocking truth about how retirement completely reshapes marriage dynamics in ways nobody expects. Most importantly, you'll get 2 simple daily actions that can rebuild the connection and intimacy you thought was lost forever. The last insight I share might surprise you the most. It's about the one thing happy couples over 75 do differently that transforms everything. Whether you've been married 30 years or 60 years, this information could save your relationship. And if you're a woman watching this, you'll finally understand why you're feeling this way and what you can ask for. Don't let decades of love end in bitterness when the solution might be simpler than you think. Something profound happens to marriages when couples enter their 70s, and it catches everyone off guard. After decades of focusing on raising children, building careers, and managing households, couples suddenly find themselves alone together for the first time in possibly 40 years. But instead of rekindling romance, many discover they've become strangers living under the same roof. Here's what's really happening. Women in their 70s are experiencing what psychologists call identity reclamation. For most of their lives, they've defined themselves through their roles: mother, wife, caregiver, supporter. Now, with children grown and careers ended, they're asking themselves, who am I when I'm not taking care of everyone else? This isn't a midlife crisis. It's a late-life awakening. The problem is that while women are going through this transformation, their husbands often remain stuck in old patterns. He still expects dinner at the same time, still leaves his coffee cup on the counter, still assumes she'll handle the social calendar and remember everyone's birthdays. What he doesn't realize is that she's fundamentally changed her relationship with these expectations. Think about it this way. Imagine you've been wearing a heavy coat for 50 years, and suddenly you realize you can take it off. That's what many women experience in their 70s. They're literally shedding decades of automatic caretaking behaviors. The man who once felt supported and cared for now feels like his wife has become cold or distant, but she hasn't become cold. She's become selective about where she puts her energy. There's also a biological component nobody talks about. Postmenopausal women often experience increased confidence and assertiveness due to hormonal changes. The same woman who used to avoid conflict now speaks her mind directly. The accommodating nature that defined her younger years gets replaced by a fierce protection of her time and energy. Meanwhile, men in their 70s are often dealing with their own changes, possible health issues, loss of physical strength, and the adjustment to retirement. They may actually need more support just as their wives are pulling back from their traditional supportive role. This creates a perfect storm of unmet expectations and growing resentment. The tragedy is that both partners are often completely unaware this shift is happening. They just know something feels different, and instead of understanding it's a natural life transition, they blame each other. The woman feels unappreciated and taken for granted after decades of service. The man feels rejected and confused about why his wife seems angry all the time. Neither understands they're experiencing a predictable life stage that requires new agreements and understanding. Let me share the 4 deep resentments that build up in women's hearts over decades of marriage, often exploding after age 70, when they finally feel free to express them. Resentment. 1. The Caretaker Burden. For 40, 50 years, she's been the family's emotional manager. She remembered every birthday, maintained relationships with both sides of the family, scheduled doctor appointments, and managed the household's emotional temperature. While he focused on his career, she carried the invisible load of keeping everyone connected and cared for. Now, in her 70s, she's exhausted from decades of emotional labor that was never acknowledged or appreciated. She realizes that while he got praised for his professional achievements, nobody ever thanked her for being the family's emotional backbone. The resentment isn't just about the work, it's about the complete lack of recognition for how essential her contributions were. Resentment, 2. The invisible labor reality beyond emotional caretaking. There's the mountain of invisible work she's done. While he sees himself as helping with housework, she knows the truth. He's been an assistant in his own home while she managed everything. She planned meals, managed finances, coordinated repairs, organized closets, and handled hundreds of daily decisions that kept life running smoothly. He never had to think about whether there was toilet paper or if the bills were paid because she handled it all. Now she looks back and realizes she essentially ran a small business, the household, while he remained blissfully unaware of its complexity. The phrase, "What's for dinner?" now triggers rage because it represents decades of him assuming she would handle life's details. Resentment, 3. The lost dreams factor. This one cuts deepest. In her 20s, 30s and 40s, she had dreams, ambitions and interests she put aside for family. Maybe she wanted to travel, start a business, pursue education or develop artistic talents. While he pursued his career goals and interests, she was told her dreams could wait until later. Now it's later, and she realizes how much of herself she sacrificed. She sees friends who pursued their passions and feels a profound sense of loss for the woman she might have been. The resentment isn't just toward her husband, it's towards a system that taught her to make herself smaller so others could be bigger. But he was the beneficiary of that sacrifice, and now he represents everything she gave up. Resentment, 4. The retirement role reversal. Here's where it gets really complex. For decades, he was gone 8, 10 hours a day, and she managed their world. Now he's retired and home all the time, but instead of appreciating her domain, he wants to reorganize it. He suddenly has opinions about how she loads the dishwasher, questions her grocery shopping choices, and wants to help by taking over tasks she's mastered. She feels invaded in the space that was once her kingdom. Worse, he expects her to entertain him or include him in everything because he's bored. She went from having independence during the day to having a constant presence, questioning her methods and interrupting her routines. It feels like surveillance after decades of autonomy. What makes these resentments so powerful is that they've been building silently for decades. She never expressed them because she was taught that good wives don't complain, that love means sacrifice, and that family harmony was her responsibility. She swallowed disappointment, buried frustration, and smiled through exhaustion. But something happens in your 70s. You run out of patience for pretending. You realize you have limited time left, and you're done being convenient for everyone else. The man experiencing this often feels blindsided. From his perspective, they had a good marriage. She seemed happy. They rarely fought, and life ran smoothly. He genuinely doesn't understand where this anger is coming from because he never saw the cost of that smooth-running life. He never realized that her apparent contentment was actually exhaustion disguised as cooperation. Understanding these resentments isn't about blame, it's about recognition. These women aren't being unreasonable or suddenly becoming difficult. They're finally expressing feelings they've carried for decades, and they're doing it at an age where they feel they have nothing left to lose. Men miss 3 crucial things about their wives' transformation after 70, and understanding these blind spots can make the difference between growing closer or growing apart. Blind spot 1. She's not rejecting you, she's reclaiming herself. When your wife stops automatically doing things she's always done, most men interpret this as rejection or criticism. She stops making your coffee every morning, and you think she doesn't care about you anymore. She stops planning all the social activities, and you assume she's becoming antisocial. But here's what you're missing. She's not rejecting you, she's finally asking herself what she wants instead of automatically assuming what everyone else needs. For decades, her identity was so intertwined with serving others that she lost touch with her own preferences. Now she's discovering that maybe she doesn't actually enjoy hosting big family dinners. Maybe she prefers quiet mornings to herself. Maybe she wants to try new activities that don't include you. This isn't about not loving you. It's about finally loving herself enough to have preferences. The mistake men make is taking this personally instead of celebrating it. Your wife is becoming more herself, not less yours. But you have to let go of the version of her that existed primarily to make your life easier. Blind spot 2. Your help feels like criticism. You finally retire and want to be more involved in household management. You think you're being helpful by reorganizing the kitchen or suggesting better ways to do things. But here's what you don't understand. These spaces and systems represent decades of her expertise and autonomy. When you rearrange her kitchen cabinets more efficiently, you're essentially telling her that her 50 years of managing the household were wrong. She doesn't want your help improving systems that already work for her. She wants recognition for the expertise she's developed. Instead of asking, "How can I help you do this better?" try asking, "Can you teach me how you've been managing this so well all these years?" The difference is profound. One implies she's been doing it wrong, the other acknowledges her competence. Blind spot 3. She needs different things now than she did at 30. This might be the biggest blind spot of all. You're still trying to show love the same way you did decades ago, but her needs have evolved completely. At 30, she might have felt loved when you worked hard to provide for the family. At 70, she feels loved when you show genuine interest in her thoughts and feelings. At 30, she might have appreciated you taking charge and making decisions. At 70, she wants to be consulted and included as an equal partner. Many men get stuck thinking, "But this is how I've always shown love and it worked before." They don't realize that what feels like love to a 30-year-old mother might feel like being ignored to a 70-year-old woman who finally has time to think about her own needs. She's also dealing with her own mortality in a way she never has before. At 70, she's acutely aware that time is limited. She doesn't want to waste it on meaningless activities or surface-level conversations. She wants deeper connection, authentic communication, and genuine partnership. The casual, comfortable patterns that sustained your marriage for decades might now feel shallow and unsatisfying to her. The solution isn't to completely change who you are. It's to become curious about who she's becoming. Ask her what she's thinking about, what she's dreaming about, what she wishes were different. Listen, without trying to fix or solve. Show interest in her inner world, not just her daily tasks. Most importantly, understand that this evolution is actually a gift to your marriage if you embrace it. Instead of being married to someone who's given up herself for others, you get to be married to someone who's finally becoming fully herself. Here's the retirement reality nobody prepares you for. When you both stop working, your entire marriage power structure flips overnight, and most couples are completely unprepared for this seismic shift. For decades, your roles were clearly defined. He left for work, she managed the home and family. There was structure, separation, and distinct domains of expertise. But retirement erases all those boundaries in a single day. Suddenly, you're both home together 24/7 in a space that's been primarily her domain for decades. He's looking for purpose and structure, often trying to apply his workplace management skills to household operations. She's looking forward to more freedom and autonomy, finally having space to pursue her own interests without constant interruption. The result? He feels useless and bored while she feels invaded and micromanaged. He wants to optimize everything, the way groceries are organized, how the garden is maintained, when errands are run. It's like having a new manager show up in a business you've been running successfully for 40 years. There's also the social dynamic nobody talks about. She's maintained the couple's social connections, planned activities, and managed relationships. Now he expects her to continue being their social director while also including him in everything. The financial dynamic shifts too. If he was the primary earner, retirement can trigger an identity crisis. She may feel like she needs permission to spend money on herself after years of prioritizing everyone else's needs. Here's the shocking truth. The couples who thrive after retirement are those who completely renegotiate their relationship instead of trying to maintain old patterns. They create new agreements about space, time, responsibilities, and individual pursuits. The couples who struggle are those who assume their pre-retirement dynamic will automatically work when they're together constantly. If you recognize your marriage in this video, here are 2 daily actions that can rebuild the connection you thought was lost forever. Daily action 1, the appreciation reset. Every morning, tell your wife one specific thing you appreciate about her that has nothing to do with what she does for you. The key is appreciating who she is, not what she does. After decades of being valued primarily for her service, she needs to know you see her as a complete person with valuable qualities beyond her usefulness to others. Daily action 2, the curiosity practice. Every day, ask your wife a question about her inner world that you've never asked before. What's something you've been thinking about lately? Or what's one thing you wish I understood better about you? The goal isn't to fix or solve anything she shares. It's to know her mind, not just her schedule. But here's the real transformation secret. You both need to grieve the old version of your marriage before you can build the new one. This grief isn't about regret. It's about acknowledgement. You're not trying to go backward to how things used to be. You're building something entirely new. The most successful couples over 70 create individual identities and a partnership identity. They pursue separate interests, maintain individual friendships, and have personal goals, but they also intentionally create shared experiences. The goal is to build a relationship where both people feel seen, valued, and free to be authentically themselves while choosing to share life together. Your marriage at 70 can be deeper, more authentic, and more satisfying than it ever was at 30, but only if you're willing to let it evolve. If this opened your eyes about your own marriage, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to understand these dynamics. What surprised you most? Tell us in the comments below.